At my company's year-end party, my department had toasted, "Let's all applaud her, proof that loyalty alone can't replace actual talent." The crowd giggled as I held my head high. Weeks later, I was sitting across the table in a different building, negotiating a buyout that would leave him begging me for a favor he would never get. I worked at Concord Ridge Software Solutions in Charlotte, North Carolina for 11 years. I wasn't flashy. I wasn't loud. But I knew what I was doing. I was the one they called when things went wrong, when someone messed up a report, when a deadline was about to get missed. I stayed late. I fixed other people's mistakes. I did the dirty work no one else wanted to do. And I never complained. My title never changed. Senior Coordinator. That's what they gave me after 5 years.
And it stuck.
I watched other people move up, people I trained, people who asked me how to do the very basics. But I kept showing up because I thought hard work mattered. My boss, Craig Mullen, was one of those guys who looked like a boss in a bad TV show.
Tall.
Expensive suits. Talked like he was always pitching something. Fake smile. Smooth voice. He knew how to say the right thing in front of upper management. He didn't know a damn thing about the systems we worked with, but that never stopped him from taking credit when something went right. He didn't like being questioned. He especially didn't like it when I corrected him in meetings, which I did, politely, when he said something wrong. By the 10th year, I knew I wasn't going anywhere in that company. I wasn't on any leadership track. I wasn't anyone's rising star. I was just the dependable one. The background worker. The one they knew would stay if others left. Then came the company's end-of-year party. December 17th. That date's burned into my head. They rented out the Radisson Ballroom. Fancy buffet, open bar, live music. Everyone dressed up. I wore a burgundy dress I hadn't taken out since my cousin's wedding. I curled my hair. I even put on heels, which I hate. I don't know why I tried that night. Maybe I still believed something good would happen. About 2 hours in, Craig stepped up to the mic. He was already drunk. You could hear it in the way he slurred his words, dragging out his sentences like a speech he hadn't prepared. He toasted the sales team first, then IT. Then some of the newer execs. And then his eyes landed on me. "Now," he said, grinning like a game show host, "I want to give a special shout out to someone we all know. The backbone of this company, Michelle." Everyone clapped. I smiled politely. I didn't expect much. I was used to being a side note. Then he said it. 10 years of loyalty. 10 years of always being here, doing the work. She's proof, folks, that loyalty alone can't replace actual talent. People laughed. They actually laughed. I felt like I'd been slapped in the face in front of 200 people. My smile didn't drop. I wouldn't give him that. I took a sip of my wine, looked straight ahead, and let them have their little laugh. But inside, something broke. That was the moment I knew I was done being quiet. 2 weeks later, I turned in my resignation. No big scene. Just a simple email with 2 weeks' notice. I didn't stick around for the farewell cake or the awkward goodbyes. I packed my things and left before lunch. But I didn't walk away empty-handed. And I sure as hell wasn't finished. After I quit, I took a week to breathe. Then I started making calls. One of the things Craig never noticed about me, I listened. A lot. More than most people realized. Over the years, I'd heard every complaint, every offhand comment from clients, every time someone muttered, "This would be easier if we had our own platform," or, "Why doesn't Concord Ridge build this instead of buying third-party garbage?" I kept records. Notes. Old emails. Diagrams. Suggestions I'd sent that got ignored. Everything. So I called up an old client, Jeffrey from Hinton Medical Systems. We'd worked closely during a 3-year contract.
He liked me, trusted me.
I told him I was no longer with Concord Ridge, and I had an idea for a platform that would cut their software costs in half. He was interested right away. Within 2 months, I'd built a small team, 2 developers and 1 UX designer I used to work with who also felt screwed over. We called ourselves Signal Line Software. It wasn't flashy, just clean, direct. We started simple. 1 custom-built compliance tracker for medical offices, then an automated inventory dashboard. Nothing fancy, but it worked. It worked better than the overpriced software Concord Ridge was still selling. Jeffrey signed a 6-month contract with us. Then his friend at a dental network called. Word started to spread. Here's where it gets interesting. 6 months in, we weren't just surviving. We were growing. And one of our developers, Andre, came to me one morning and said, "You should see this." He handed me his laptop. It was a job posting. Concord Ridge was looking for someone to consult on streamlining internal tools and modernizing inventory tracking. It was everything I'd suggested back when I worked there. So I applied. Not as myself. I used a different name, Melissa Quinn, and had Andre create a new email and fake LinkedIn profile. We got an interview. Craig didn't recognize me on the video call. I wore glasses, had my hair tied back, and let Andre do most of the talking. They loved our firm. Asked if we'd be willing to come in and talk about a buyout. A buyout. That's when it hit me. This wasn't just a job or a side project anymore. We had something they needed. Something they didn't know how to build. Something I'd offered them for years. But they laughed at. We scheduled a meeting. Downtown Charlotte, a sleek office with glass walls and fake plants. I wore the same burgundy dress from the party. I wanted him to see me and remember. When I walked into the room and Craig saw me, he froze. His smile dropped for half a second. Then came that fake grin again. "Michelle."
Wow.
I didn't expect. "No," I said, sitting across from him. "You didn't." He cleared his throat. "So you're the one behind Signal Line." "I am." There was a long pause. "Impressive," he said, though it burned his throat to say it. They needed our tech. They needed it bad. Their clients were threatening to walk. Our name had started coming up in meetings. He admitted that himself. So we talked terms. Licensing. Support contracts. Revenue sharing. And then Craig leaned forward, all casual-like, and said, "If you're open to it, we could bring you back in. I'd even push for an executive role. VP of development, maybe." I looked him straight in the eye and said, "Craig, do you remember the company party?" He blinked. You made a joke. Something about loyalty not replacing talent." "Oh," he chuckled nervously. "Yeah, that was just a joke." "I know," I said. "And this is mine." I closed the folder on the table and stood up. "We'll license the software to your clients directly. No need for a middleman." "Wait, Michelle. Let's be reasonable. You had your chance," I said. 10 years of it." He called 2 more times after that. Left voicemails. One of them even sounded like he was holding back tears. I didn't call back. Things got even more interesting 3 weeks later. We got a call from an investor group based in Raleigh, one of those low-key but high-power firms that fund SaaS startups under the radar. They'd heard about our work with Hinton and the dental network. Wanted to talk expansion. Not just money, but connections. They had access to clients Concord Ridge had only dreamed about. Hospitals. National pharmacy chains. Logistics companies. They invited us to pitch. We spent 2 days polishing everything: product demos, projections, client testimonials. The meeting was at a private event space just outside downtown Raleigh. We walked in with nothing but confidence. And guess who was also pitching that day? Concord Ridge. More specifically, Craig. I saw him in the lobby, adjusting his tie, talking to one of the junior partners. He saw me 5 seconds later. His face went pale, like he'd seen a ghost. I didn't say a word, just nodded at him and walked past. Our presentation went well. Really well. I kept it clear. I talked about the gap in the market, the feedback we'd already gotten, and most importantly, the simplicity and speed of our tools. Craig's pitch followed ours, and I stayed just to watch. He was nervous. Stumbled once. Used phrases like industry standard and synergy. He didn't mention me by name, but he talked about how they were adapting to competition from aggressive new players. The investor group didn't say much at the end. Just thanked us and said they'd be in touch. 5 days later, they called. They were going with us. But they wanted more than just a regular investment. They wanted to fully acquire Signal Line. I didn't say yes right away. I took 2 days to think. We had built this thing from nothing, and giving it up, even for a big payout, wasn't easy. But then they told me something that made the decision easy. They'd been planning to cut ties with Concord Ridge for months. Bad leadership, bloated costs, outdated tech. Craig had no idea. This buyout would mean they'd shift their clients, over 30 accounts, into our hands. We signed the paperwork. Within 3 weeks, Signal Line Software was officially part of a larger firm. I wasn't just some side player. I was brought in as a director, with full creative control, a team of 40, and a budget that made my old salary look like a typo. And Craig? He found out the same way I used to find things out, through a corporate memo. I didn't expect what came next. I thought I was done with Craig. I thought I had already gotten my revenge. But then I got a message from Caitlin. Yes, that Caitlin. The one who laughed the loudest at that party.
She emailed me on a Sunday.
Subject line, "Can we talk?" The message was short. "Hey Michelle, I know this is awkward, but I think you should know what's going on over here. I'm not looking for anything. I feel like you should know. If you're open to it, can we meet for coffee?" I sat with that email for hours. Part of me wanted to delete it, but I was curious. I told her to meet me at a cafe near South End, a public place where I could walk away if it turned weird. She showed up looking exhausted. No makeup, messy bun, no designer bag this time. "Thanks for coming," she said. I just nodded.
She didn't waste time.
"Craig's losing it. He's been blaming me for everything since you left. The lost clients. The failed pitches. He even told HR I leaked internal documents, which I didn't." I stayed quiet. "I know what he said about you," she added. "That night. It was wrong." I laughed because I was scared not to. He always made people feel like that. I finally said, "Why tell me this now?" She looked down. "Because I'm being investigated. HR opened a formal case. They're trying to make me the fall person. And I think he's the one who pushed it." I didn't feel sorry for her, but I understood. That place destroyed people slowly, like a bad relationship. She slid a folder across the table. "I copied this before they locked me out. Inside were emails, internal memos, budget sheets, and one particular message, Craig's, sent 3 weeks before I left, titled Michelle. Not leadership material. It wasn't just cruel. It was personal. He'd written things like, "She's dependable but doesn't understand the bigger picture. Keeps her head down but lacks vision. Useful but replaceable." That was the nail in the coffin for me. Not just the party. Not just the years of being ignored. He'd actively worked against me. Undermined me behind closed doors. I took the folder. I thanked her. I never saw her again. 2 months later, the final blow came. The new firm I was part of after acquiring Signal Line started pulling accounts from Concord Ridge one by one. Every time they lost one, it was loud. Some of the clients wrote reviews online calling out poor service, outdated tech, mismanagement. Craig tried to hold on. He even posted on LinkedIn about exciting changes and restructuring for the future. But the truth came out anyway. 3 lawsuits, 2 internal investigations, HR leaks. It all hit at once. Then came the press release. Concord Ridge to dissolve operations by end of fiscal year. Craig's name was nowhere on it. He called me 2 weeks after that. I didn't recognize the number, but I answered anyway. "Michelle, it's Craig. Please don't hang up." I didn't say anything.
I need a favor," he said. His voice was weak.
"There's a position open at your new firm. Director of Client Strategy. I know we've had issues, but I laughed. Right into the phone.
Cold.
Sharp. "You want me to help you?"
"Michelle, please."
"I've got a mortgage. My wife's pregnant. I'm not asking for much." I kept my voice calm. "You made sure I never moved up. You laughed at me. You lied about me. You called me replaceable. And now you want help." He didn't answer. So I did. "I don't think you're leadership material." And I hung up. I never heard from him again. Sometimes I pass the old Concord Ridge building. It's empty now. For lease. The parking lot's cracked, weeds growing through the asphalt. I remember all those late nights. All the times I stayed just to fix someone else's mistake. Now I get to leave at 5 p.m. And no one laughs at me anymore.